Welcome to day 3 officially of the 12 days of December, 12 codes of December, I guess I should say, happening for these 12 days in December. I'm so excited to bring you this mini class. So if you are ever interested in investing in one of my classes, this is going to get you kind of accustomed to the feel of that. And I have to be really diligent on time. I have about 30 minutes to talk to you so that I can prepare for my session that's happening in, about 42 minutes from now. So I can do it. I'm excited for it. It'll be fun to do this activation, this Archetype Code of AH activation. In fact, while I'm chatting with you, I'm just going to get it ready so that it's available like right when I want to show it to you. Oops, it's probably not saved there yet. It's probably saved here. Okay. Where am I now? Here, I'm back. Okay, so I'm just so excited for this today. Let's talk a little bit about archetypes. If you're new to the word archetype, or maybe you've heard it, it's been thrown around a lot in the last couple of years in my life, in the areas that I choose to open myself up to, with regards to a deeper understanding of maybe the energies that are influencing us at any given time. These can be understood as archetypal energies, meaning everybody deals with this collectively, these different types of energies at some point in their life. You don't become the archetype. A lot of people want to become the archetype. I want to become the archetype of the mystic or the alchemist. Like, you actually don't, because one of the best pieces of advice that I understood is when you forget you're wearing the suit of the archetype, when you're unaware that that archetype is operating and you want to become that archetype and like merge with this archetype, that's when you start operating in the shadow aspect of any given archetype right away. You forget you're in it. You get so lost in the archetype. Like it's almost like, having a false god or a false idol. Like, you yourself you should be the archetype of you. We should create the archetype of ourself to come out and to be this symbol of what we want to provide for the cosmos and for the world. So this is kind of like an interesting concept. So let's back up a little and start talking about archetypes. Just really basically here, I'm not going to go into too many of the various different types of archetypes. Like, I have this card deck. There's a lot of cards here. This is one of my bigger decks. I don't know, how does it say? 80 cards in this one. And in fact, here's my first, if you want to study archetypes, get any book by Carolyn Myss, especially if it's called Archetypes. I mean, she's written a few that are about other things, but she speaks through the language of archetypes in all of her books. But there's a couple. Sacred Contract is a really, really great one, especially if you're familiar with astrology or you resonate with like understanding the houses of astrology, of your astrological chart and what the different houses are. That's going to sync up really well with you, Sacred Contract, and it helps you understand. We have about 12 archetypes that will, at any given time, we're born with these. Maybe the best way to describe it is like the seeds of these archetypes. And when you water the seeds, you see how they grow and how you're cultivating these different archetypes. You're not becoming them, but it's almost like you're cultivating aspects of them within yourself. And we'll talk about, we also have light attributes and shadow attributes when we're talking about archetypes. So this is all something that's really important to take into consideration. I mentioned, like the mystic archetype, or, the alchemist archetype. You have these aspirations to become these archetypes, and if you strive for it too much, it might not be one of your archetypes that is part of your genetic code that you're born with in this lifetime. And so that's why learning a little bit more about them, looking back over your life experience and seeing the different areas that would bring you passion. Like, if you are into art, if you're into photography, I know Cassie, if she's still on, she's very much got the artist's eyes as it relates to photographs and what would be very beautiful and inspiring for people to see. And so there's the archetype of the artist, and it might even be more detailed now, the type of artist, but really it's this drive to produce art, to make people experience something within themselves by looking at something that you've been able to create. And so this is all very important. to know. And you can nurture these types of archetypes, even if you don't have a camera or whatever. If you're still an artist, you can go out and you can paint a picture, you can experience a scene. Instead of looking through the camera at it, you can sketch it out. Something that's totally different for a lot of photographers. They are so used to like looking through the camera, and it's like, okay, one idea as a different way to develop that artist archetype, for example. I'm starting in on like some of the random archetypes that aren't necessarily ones that we all have, but I'm just giving you some examples. You can nurture that artist by doing something a little bit different. So you don't become so locked into the one sort of category that archetype represents. And we'll go into some more detail about that. So I recommend that Sacred Contract book, and it goes into a lot of detail about the different types of archetypes. There's this archetype card deck. Hay House produced it. It's really good. It's really a great deck to have if you wanted to play around with them and sort of understand. Let me make sure I'm seeing all the comments here. Christina, greetings, hello. So let's talk a little bit about the four. These are like the 4 survival archetypes. Okay, we all have them. All of us have these 4. So it's kind of nice to introduce these to you as the mini class. And then you can become inspired and dig deeper on the different types of archetypes. And guys, anything is an archetype. The 64 gene keys that I'm studying, each of the 64 gene keys is an archetype. So this has actually been a way I've been able to deepen my understanding of the gene keys, is by using these 4 survival archetypes. So I'm blending a couple of modalities here. And then you can always go into your Akashic records while you're doing these contemplations, so that you can get that energy from previous lifetimes, that in between each lifetime, what you assessed that you were going to do, which is what goes into the planting of these archetype seeds within your being. So let's start with the one, we are all about our inner child, right? All about our inner child work. So let's start with let's start with our child archetype. I have the card deck out here because the child has so many categories. Here's a couple. The wounded child, for example, the wounded child, the orphan child. These are 2 very commonly felt experiences that we all kind of have within our child archetype. The wounded child, anything that our parents did to us that repeatedly was something that we felt at that time was kind of keeping us down or making it so we couldn't do what our job was as a child, to explore and to get into trouble and maybe make some messes. That's wounding, even though you're like, I'm a mom and it's wounding to me to have to clean up the same 50 messes every single day, all day long. So we don't allow these kinds of things, but okay, year after year, okay, this is what brings on this type of wounding. Now, some children are actually abused and have lived in homes. I'm hearing this it's very important to talk about that have abuse in them. And so they actually have a different kind of wounding, but we all have a wounded child. Okay. As an adult, when something doesn't go our way, it's not the adult rational person that realizes that tomorrow something will go our way, because that's how the universe works. It's our wounded child that gets butthurt and is like really upset. It's not the adult. Okay. So, hi, Karen. Thank you. Yeah, my hair's getting super long. I don't know. I'm really loving it. It's also because I washed it today. The orphan child. The orphan child can happen even when you're not an orphan, even when you haven't experienced a prolonged separation from your parent or your guardian. It can happen just because you didn't feel like your parent or guardian was able to give you the quality, attention, connection, and time that you needed during those formative years from 0 to 7. How many parents, moms included, have to get right back to work, choose to? I even was struggling with this. And I mean, I'm working now, but I've put some very strict parameters on my hours of time, and I'm actually a much happier mother, because internally, even the child in me was saying, give your children this time. So, and it's in a way, you're giving it to me too inside. Okay, so this is what my child was talking to me. But of course, I'm an asshole mother that was like, I don't have time for you. I have shit to do. Okay, I gotta get going with my mission and this and that, and my house is dirty. Okay, so, all right, these are some ideas of the child. Then we have other types of child attributes. The divine child. The divine child. Oh my goodness, this is like the child that has this innocence, this purity, this ability to connect with the divine sources within themselves. These are the children that come at you in that moment where you just really needed a connection, and they like give you a hug. Or my son, just, I'll hold his hand. My oldest, my 5-year-old, loves to hold my hand still, thank goodness. And he just kisses it. Like he takes it up and he kisses it right when, and I'm like, okay, you are connected with something that tells me I need that. Even if he can't tell me the words of how much he appreciates me because he's too busy being a little terrorist sometimes, and me reacting to that, I can take advantage of these other times when that divine child really lights up in him. We have the nature child. If you have any child in particular, or you yourself that just love to spend time outdoors, you know that you have that code within you, that nature child code. Not only do we have the wounded child code, I don't want to be like, oh, we're just all wounded children. We can have these other codes. We have the eternal child. The shadow side of the eternal child comes out in the husbands that we have to raise. Just kidding. I'm sure there's a lot of women that need some raising too. Probably me myself. Sometimes, but this is the eternal child. Then sometimes the shadow aspect coming out is the child that never wants to grow up. But here, the determination to remain young, to still do these things that are very fun for their inner child, even when they're much older. Okay, these are people who like jump out of airplanes for fun. And I know my friend Karen, she's gone skydiving recently. She made a comment here. I was thinking of her jumping out of an airplane. I'm getting closer to thinking that might be fun. Getting closer. The magical child. I love this one. The magical child, seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things. I think the magical and the divine really line up for me, especially if you can continue to nurture the magical child within your own children. Like, let them have their imaginary friends. These are connections to the divine as well as to the magical realms of fairies and elves and whatever, these kinds of things. So this is the aspects of your child, your inner child, that you can dive deeper in. You're not always wanting to connect up with your wounded child, because you really should celebrate the other parts of your inner child that actually play a part in who you are as an adult, who you are, how you go about creating joy in your life. That's your inner child's department of expertise. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're connecting up with that. Let's see, I have to constantly be checking and see. Okay, we're doing good on time. Now I just want to go back to where I can see comments if people come on. This is when I talk about the 4 survival archetypes, the child being one of them, just the overall child category. I imagine them being like the 4 legs of a standard table. I say standard because some tables don't have 4 legs anymore. They're just all different. We have 4 legs of a standard table, and without any one of these, as we venture into talking about some of the other 3, or the other 3 legs, just doing math right now, we look at that and we say, okay, without any one of these, my table gets very unstable, and the rest of my archetype family can't rest. They can't sit on it. They can't be at the table. Maybe that's a bit, as a mom, I'm like, nobody sits on the table, but they can't be around the table. They can't take part in the experience that is you if you're this table and you have these 4 survival archetypes. So let's introduce you to the next 3 briefly of these survival archetypes, because I want you to just start ruminating and cultivating the thoughts that you have around these in your mind, and especially as we go into activating the Archetype Code of AH. I'm really excited about that, because we're gonna clear out the shadow patterns that are maybe coming forward for you and help you step into the light attributes of these archetypes, and then go beyond them to become the archetype of you. So the victim archetype. Okay. It's so hard when we get ourselves in a situation where we feel victimized, okay? And the shadow aspect of that is somebody who constantly puts themselves in the position of being victimized. And to some extent, and I know it's like you can't blame the victim, but to some extent, they are fine in that category, to some extent, of being victimized. And so they allow it to happen over and over and over again, instead of taking this experience, this very shadowy experience that's initially put them in the role of victimization, and doing whatever they can to rise above it. Even if that means they sink into like, okay, you know, I hear in my head that there's a lot of people that are going to find this hard to resonate with, because they like say they have a child with somebody and then they separate, but every single time they have to interact with the other parent of this child, they get pulled into this victim bullshit again. How are they letting themselves get victimized? I'm hearing this in my head that people are asking this. It's like, okay, no, but you can learn from that story in your life and not go be with another person that in 5 or 10 years starts to victimize you again. Okay, you can look at these patterns. You can use the really nasty relationships in our life for the deepest transformation. Okay, so when we're looking at the light attributes, so you embrace the shadow, you embrace that victim and the victimized person within yourself, and you first of all make them feel comforted, because you don't want to make yourself a victim to yourself by being mad at yourself for being victimized again. I'm fucking so mad at myself, this happened to me again, it keeps on happening to me. Well, step out of that place right there, okay, and give yourself a hug. Like, be gentle, okay, take a moment, just breathe, you know? And then you see, okay, there was a point. As I'm looking back at it, there was a point that I sensed it about a year ago. I sensed that this relationship was not, that it was putting me back into these old patterns, but because I was too nice, or because I felt like the person needed me, or I'm just too nice, I let it go. Okay, and then again, you can go back to the place of beating yourself up and you can victimize yourself, because we really like to do that. Or you can say, breathe the ah sigh. I see it. And now I'm going to use this code. I'm going to pull out this code out of my files here. I'm going to go to this live stream, and I'm going to ask for that to be transformed to the light attribute, so I can see it ahead of time in the next relationship that I draw into my life, or in the next scenario that I find myself in. That when the nightlight of victimization goes on way over there, you don't just stay in that space because you're feeling kind of comfortable. You say, no, I need to go and I need to turn on the real light and shine a light on this situation and see what's going on and prevent myself from falling into this category. And then also we also have the shadow side of being the victimizer. Okay, and oftentimes we can link up our wounded child with the victimizer and say, okay, he or she, this person that's that's hurting other people, is not. It's their wounded inner child that's coming forward and saying, it happened to me, so I'm going to do it to somebody else. Okay, and this is one of the greatest challenges that we all have in this incarnation, is to meet non-love with love. Okay, it's like super powerful. I just wanted to pause. If you can take every situation in your life, even the ones that are giving you a shitload of non-love, and you can meet it with love, that's where you're going to start to break down some of the barriers between really releasing your gifts, releasing your light attributes, working with the positive sides of these archetypes, and with your own personality. Hello, hi Divya, hi Charles, welcome. Just saying hi to those that are joining on live, which is really cool. We have 2 more archetypes to talk about, and then I'll go into this code activation, because I want to make sure you guys are getting the that yumminess as well. So I have we have the prostitute archetype. I just felt like we should jump in. The prostitute archetype is one. I mean, look at this girl. She definitely looks like the old standard sort of replication of what a prostitute is. But let's just take it let's just bring it to an understanding of what it means in real time. Yeah, because prostitutes, like, one of the oldest known occupations, and not just for women. There's been plenty of men who've experienced that essence as males in lifetimes, or I should say plenty of souls that experience that essence as a male. But when you're selling some of your own let's see, so it says places material considerations and security above self-empowerment. I really liked the way that was phrased. So you place your security, an unsatisfying job, miserable relationship that provides for the household, you put all of that in front of your own happiness, your own feelings of self-empowerment. Again, you're making yourself a victim as well as a prostitute here pretty quickly. You're putting yourself into these boxes. So there's so many people, and especially, I'm telling you, like, there's so many healers and light workers and people who are here ready to help the consciousness sort of ascend and raise the frequencies, and they're stuck in these jobs, in these places that are not satisfying, and they're not bringing love and light and hope and future thinking. They're not bringing the brilliant futures to themselves because they're in this place where they're selling themselves out for what, health insurance, a paycheck. These are all really, really important things. They're very important things. But the universe will always provide. The universe will always provide. So the light attribute is when you step into that place, when you say, I accept the challenge of surviving, if that's what I feel like it needs to be called. I accept that challenge without of basing my happiness and my survival without selling or negotiating the power of my soul to anybody else. So, hi Charles, I'm not doing card readings right now. I'm doing a little class on archetypes and a DNA activation. So I apologize. I'm using cards because they're awesome. But look inside yourself and see where these different archetypes are coming out. This is kind of like a mini coaching session. I do a lot more than just readings. So with relationships, you know, it's being in a dissatisfying have no other choices. I saw this with my mother so much. Now that I'm like 38 years old and I can look through my lifetime through the lens of these different, and that was when I was experiencing my child archetype. But then I was like, okay, well, what was my mom working with? You know, how do I perceive what she was doing? And it's because there's the sense of being locked into this energy. Okay. So notice within yourself, when are the times that you say yes to something and it doesn't feel right inside, but it's the right thing to do, I guess, according to somebody. I'm not sure. So that's when you're going to really want to like say, okay, I see that I just prostituted myself, with regards to, I got done with that. And I felt like totally taken advantage of. Yeah. Like, have you ever been in a situation where you're involved with something and you just feel completely taken advantage of, but you did it so that you could get something as well? So, I mean, this is different from a victim, because in prostitute and victim, they come close together. The prostitute gets something, some security, some payment, something, okay, for giving something up. The victim often gets nothing. And that's really sad too. I laugh sometimes when it's uncomfortable and awkward. So let's go up here to the saboteur. This is our final leg of the archetype table. The saboteur. The saboteur is here for me like yesterday when I was going to sing the awe prayer. I sang the awe prayer on my Facebook Live, but right before, the saboteur was like, oh, maybe just play it. Maybe just play the one that the beautiful, the one that Yvonne has on YouTube. I know it never sounds good when you're playing it through your computer, but it's going to sound better than you. That's the saboteur in my head. And I was like, screw you. And everybody was like giving me all these, like, you're going to do fine, you're amazing. And I had all like my awesome, amazing people who probably are looking to jump on at 11 a.m. and I'm here at 9:30. Because I don't know how to tell time. You know, they'll be watching the replay at 11. So, you know, I had all these, and I was like, okay, I sat there and I said, you, the saboteur, you need to come and sit with me right now. Because I'm not telling you need to go live every single day and sing. You don't need to become a singer. I don't have the singer archetype, guys. I don't. It's okay. Maybe in another lifetime I did. But you do need to do this one thing. You need to do this one thing, because that one thing was able to activate and connect something I desired to do in my heart, but my gut was like scared and my throat needed it. You know, so it was like coming together with these 3 chakras and really working through a process of healing. And I feel good. I feel really proud of myself. And it's nice to have that feeling rather than disappointed that you didn't do something, that you let the saboteur come into your life and take away an opportunity for you to grow, for you to have an experience, and for you to receive the gratitude from the people who experience that. You know, maybe that enables somebody else to feel bold and to do something that's outside of their sort of normal. I mean, we're rewiring neural pathways to think differently, to act differently, to be differently than everything that we've been so far. And if you know how hard it is to teach an old dog new tricks, think how hard it is to teach an old human new tricks, okay? And we can go deeper. If you were to come to me for a reading and you're like, okay, I can't give up the prostitute in my life. I can't give it up. And I'm not saying it's like that you're a sex worker. I'm just saying, like, you can't quit that job. Well, I would go into your past life with you and help you discover lifetimes in which you lived very insecurely. You were maybe homeless. You didn't eat. You maybe even died of starvation or of the elements of freezing to death or something of that nature. Well, your soul, I mean, when we die and we experience something, our soul takes that with us, and it sort of influences the choices we make the next time we're in a body. We don't want to starve, and we don't want to have our power turned out or lose our home. So we do stay with that dissatisfying situation that we put ourselves in, and for far too long. And if we can clear out some of that garbage in the past life, that shit is done. You know, that experience is something that you karmically went through, and it was supposed to be for your growth, but you took this baggage away from it, which was your emotions as you were dealing with that experience. And that's just human nature, you guys. You can't get mad at yourself. This is part of the game. This is part of why we come be humans as souls, to really experience this and to exercise our ability to release it, let it go, and then move forward in future lifetimes. So, all right, let's look at the code. All right. Let's look at this code. Let me see if I can make the screen any bigger. There it is. Okay. Oh, let's look at this code. This is the Archetype Code of AH. And I'm going to kind of work with you on this one. As you're looking at it, you're going to start to see the different sort of frequencies within it start to pop out. At first, when I look at it, I'm really drawn to like the mechanical. It looks very, very almost like a circuitry. It reminds me of a computer circuit board. So it's got a very mechanical feel to it, but then I let that relax because it jumps at you and it draws you in. And I think the problem that's when Yvonne created this code, and I took an archetype class of hers 2 years ago. This was when I first received my archetype activation. So it was like, okay, well, we go into the mechanics of these archetypes, and we just succumb to them. We mechanically let them operate for us. And that's what I meant when I talked about when you forget you're working in any one archetype. When I forget when I just assign myself the mother archetype, the shadow of the mother comes out really fast, and I get really upset. But it's because I put myself into the corner of mother. But I'm so much more than that. I'm also student. I'm also teacher. I'm also, whatever different archetypes I might be. And so let the mechanics of this code drift away. What do you see? I see the rainbows on the outside, and I see the golden, I call it like the golden creator substance. It just calls you right there in the middle. And then, I still see the mechanics of the archetype code. It's still there, but it's not quite, it doesn't draw my attention quite as much. So it's almost like I can remember the core of who I am, even when I'm dealing with an archetype storm. with an archetype program that's come up, I can go back to the center of my being and I can find my radiant self. And then even though in my body, I might be saying, okay, I need to set this archetype down. I need to set the mother down for a moment. And I need to go and I need to step into, I need to step into my own child archetype, for example. So I can focus there in the center of my being. I can set down the archetype that's sort of invading in my body space and maybe making me react with the shadow side, the nagging mother, the yelly mother. And I can draw in, take from the rainbow on the outside as you're looking at this, you draw in that rainbow and you bring it partly into your core through the archetype, and you bless it with the energy that you want to embody. You allow that rainbow to move you from the shadow aspect right back to the center of your core, which is the light attribute, the gift that's waiting to come out. So this is one of the most beautiful archetypes for me, now that I understand more about how to, or one of the most beautiful codes for me, now that I understand more about how to work with them. I think 2 years ago, I remember when I first saw this code, it was very mechanical for me. And I've also recently taken a codologist certification, and there's a number of codes. There's the Mary Magdalene code. There's it's like the Christ consciousness code. They have the same rainbow around the outside of it, or it's a very similar rainbow. And so it is blessing you with the ability to pull in the divine sacred feminine, the divine sacred masculine, to blend those together and become what you are as that divine light source within yourself, instead of being a victim, instead of being a prostitute, instead of sabotaging yourself, instead of always resonating with the wounded child or the orphan child. Every single time your children need something, you can come to them and you can say, let's go outside and play in the mud. Let's go be nature children. I don't care. My house is dirty. It'll be dirtier after. I can just do the cleaning then. So this is a way that you can step beyond the confines of any one archetype. All right, you guys, now go ahead and close your eyes and breathe this code in through your third eye chakra, through that chakra on your forehead. Big inhale. Oh, I can see it. I can see it in my third eye. Now send it all the way down, all through your chakra system, through your body. Down below your feet, down through the foundation of your house or your building, down below the earth's surface to the Gaia chakra, the Gaia star chakra, down there. Just meet it right up to the center of the earth. So we can ask and set the intention that when we start working within the shadow aspects of any archetype, we can become alerted of that we can take a pause, that we can look at that and embrace that shadow aspect and find out what it truly needs, which is not to react, not to portray the shadow side of itself. No, it's to accept itself, accept the shadows, and release the gift that comes from that acceptance. Go ahead and breathe in. Breathe this code all the way back up. And I'll have you open your eyes again and look at it because it's so beautiful. Oh, when you open your eyes, you see different colors coming through, a lot of purples and indigos. What looked like kind of a black background to me it was not when I opened it up. It was very brilliant and bright. I'm going to take that encouragement to crown ourselves. So we're going to take this archetype code of awe. And we're going to imagine, go ahead and close your eyes and imagine you're placing it on your head like a crown. We do in yoga class, we kind of make crowns for ourselves with our hands. So place it there on your head and then allow that rainbow aura that's surrounding the code to surround your entire body, your entire auric field around your body, sealing you up, allowing you to experience the divine, the sacred and masculine divine as part of your energies and not necessarily falling into the shadow side of the archetypes. And what's more, this allows you to create and build the archetype of you. It's so beautiful. With the power of divine love, light, and truth, I ask for this code to be activated in anybody that's participating live or watching the replays, so that they may understand the archetypes that are working within them and learn how to step outside of those frequencies and learn from them, but not become them. I inspire everyone to become the archetype of themselves. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ah. So take a moment. Come back. I have to jump off because I'm going to get ready for my client session, but it was really great to connect up with you. And if anybody wants a private session to work more into the discovery of the archetype of themselves, let me know, because I'm actually opening up a little archetype coaching program for 2020. So I haven't exactly formed it completely, but it's in the process. So if you're interested in that, it would be a series of sessions at a more reduced rate than my normal one-on-one session, because you're getting a coaching package. I mean, you guys are familiar with coaching packages. So anything you have questions on, please feel free to make a comment, reach out for me for a private session, and have a great day. Thank you.